Mac, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jonathan. Glad to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad we were finally able to arrange it. I know I've had you on my list for a while to get on. I wanted you to get you in season one. We've got you in season two, but I can't wait for people to hear your story. I know I always love talking to you, and it's a lot of great things have happened and are continuing to happen. So we knew. Now I always like to talk about how I know somebody. So did we meet through EOK as well, or did we just out networking in general? Do you recall? We've known each other quite a while now.
I think it was EOK.
Yeah, it may have been. That seems to be a common thread with a lot of people that I talk to these days. So entrepreneurs in Knoxville and things like that. And I know when I met you, you were I think a partner at VO Design, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right.
So why don't you run us through a little bit of your background and kind of your experience and those type of things?
Sure. So I started out in startups in 1996. Wow. My first job out of grad school, I had a master's degree in organizational psych, and there was a whole lot of statistics in that master's, and so organizational psych is basically human resources.
Okay.
That's the most common job. And after somebody visited one of our classes and talked about getting bulletproof glass installed in his window so people couldn't shoot at him from the parking lot anymore, I was like, I don't know. This doesn't sound particularly fun. Actually it was really cool. I really enjoyed the master's program, but I did decide by the end of it that I was interested in seeing what else was out there first. I wound up getting this job at a software startup that made statistical process control software.
Wow.
And I was helping with sales and marketing, and I think I was probably a lousy employee, but I thought it was a really cool thing. I had a lot to learn and made lots of mistakes, but I enjoyed the atmosphere and kind of stuck in my head that this is cool. People are making things and building something, and that really appealed to me.
Did you always have that bug to do something entrepreneurial? Did you always have that glean to do it, even as a young man? I mean, was it always there for you, you think?
I definitely, yes. I had absolutely no idea how I was going to do it, but I always had an interest in that. And so that certainly is what led me into the startup out of grad school. And, I'm really not being I'm not being modest when I say I probably wasn't very successful. I didn't know how to sell software. I didn't know how to market software. And I was just plodding along, doing what I could. But I really did fall in love with the process. And I decided I needed to learn how to sell things, and I needed to learn how to market, and I needed to learn more about startups in general and business. And so I kept on with day jobs, but I started doing side hustles. And my first side hustle was KnoxvilleBusiness.com.
Okay.
Which I bought in 1999. Actually, there was something else before that, but I won't give you all the details because everybody will be bored by the end of it. So KnoxvilleBusiness.com in 1999, and I worked on that for 10 years as kind of my primary side hustle. And some of the time it was just a blog, and some of the times it was more of a service and myself being a consultant. Mm-hmm. And at the end of Knoxville Business, it became a regional platform that I had developed, and it was combined with something called Knoxville Jukebox, which was so I was combining local entertainment with local business services to drive traffic, cross traffic, and try to create an ecosystem. And once I proved that could work, then roll it out into other other locations. So that actually turned into my first exit, and that exit was into VO design.
Right.
We we decided that we wanted to rebuild it because there were some security issues, both Knoxville Business and Knoxville Jukebox. So there were some security issues with the platform as it was built, and we decided we were going to rebuild it. And then VO blew up, and we never rebuilt it. So I became a partner at VO and helped them with digital strategy, which is something that I learned a lot about over
Absolutely.
the course of my 10 years with Knoxville Business. And
so what's interesting to me, Mac, about Knoxville Business is I'm curious, did you early on know that when you were going to do entrepreneurship, you wanted it to be an online platform? I mean, even, I know this maybe starts to date us maybe, but even in the 90s, right, did you early on know that you wanted to have an online platform of some sort as your first business? What was it that got you in that direction?
Absolutely, yes. And what led me in that direction was the dot-com boom.
Right, right. So you saw it going on and thought, I need to get in the middle of this somehow.
Yeah, it was exciting. I knew absolutely nothing about it, but I was seeing people doing exciting things and, making ridiculous amounts of money for basically nothing. And I said, I want some of that.
Sure.
Greed is not a great reason for success, but it certainly is a fine motivator to say that looks interesting.
Right.
People are succeeding, maybe I can too. And it took me a long time to learn and get to the point to where I was making better decisions and all that kind of good stuff. But
were you doing a lot of it yourself? Were you doing, your own website design? And obviously you were doing the sales and marketing. You mentioned how important that was to you.
I was. I did work with other people, but for the most part, I was a one-man shop with, managing developers who were helping me, creating all the content, doing all the customer outreach and sales and et cetera. So it was a very time-consuming side hustle.
Yeah, they can be. But I'm curious, I mean, looking back on that now, do you feel like the skills that you learned in those early days, even as tough as they were, the lessons they were to learn, do you feel like those skills are what's put you in a position to do some of the things that you've done now or have done?
Absolutely. Was definitely how I cut my teeth.
Right.
And going from Knoxville Business, which I ran full-time for a year before I joined VO Design and sold Knoxville Business to them, was a really fantastic experience because I got to help to build a team. They were already a team when I joined, but I got to be part of helping to expand it. And so learning more about management and leadership and strategic initiatives of more than just yourself, that involve more than just yourself, was a great experience. And I still am a silent partner of VO, and they are kicking butt and taking names. Just got named, as I shared with you earlier, to the top 100 inbound marketing blogs in the world. And that's like at number 31, they're right up there with some really big names. So pretty exciting stuff.
They are. They do a lot of great work. I've worked with them personally in the professional world, and they do a lot of great work. They do have a great team. I will echo for you just that idea of their team atmosphere. It's been that way for a long time, but they seem to really enjoy each other and have a good time. They work hard, play hard is the best way I could describe that team. So what was that process like about just in general, without disclosing details obviously, but what was that process like about, did you find them? Did they find you? How did that happen with Knoxville Business?
We met in BNI.
Oh, actually. Okay.
Old school.
Old school networking, right? Right.
Uh,
And were you looking to sell at the time, or
no, actually, not at all. It just turned into we were working on some client projects together, and we enjoyed working together. And I had, like I said, I'd been doing a pretty exhausting side hustle for 10 years, and then full time alone for a year.
right?
And so by the time I started working with them on some projects, I was like, damn, I really want to be on a team instead of being by myself.
Absolutely.
So I was really eager to be part of something else besides just me, and it worked out.
It sure did. It sure did. So let's transition that. So you're working with the team at VO, and I'll make sure to link to them in the notes. But you're working with the team at VO, and so walk us through how Smart RIA comes to be, and then tell us a bit more about it.
Sure. So I got hired from VO Design after I'd been there a few years to run someone else's company. And I did that for a while. It wasn't a great experience, and that was probably as much on me as anything, because I had been an entrepreneur, and getting hired to run somebody else's company, if it's not a perfect scenario, can be tough.
Sure.
So it didn't work out, and I had a friend who I met through the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center, which actually I should say, I think has been a huge influence on the opportunities that I've had. And I just really can't say enough good things about Jonathan Sexton and Jim Biggs and the other people who have worked and volunteered there. I think they're doing a great service for our community.
For sure.
So a friend of mine, Preston Garland, and I decided that we were going to take a startup through KEC's accelerator, kind of on a lark. Of course, we hoped that something would come of it, but we really just liked each other and decided we wanted to give it a shot.
Was that Mac? Was that the original MediaWorks program? Is that right? Before they combined it together and made it into the Works?
It was.
Yeah.
It was the last year of MediaWorks.
Okay.
So that startup was called Instartly, and ultimately Preston was really busy, and we couldn't come together enough to really push things forward. And so we decided after about 9 months that we were going to say, okay, we got some customers. We were successful on a basic level. We enjoyed working together, but this isn't coming together like we thought we would. So let's see what's next. And about the time we were having that conversation, I met John Morris again. I had met him through the KEC, but I saw him mentioned on Knox Founders. Do you remember Knox Founders?
I do.
It was a Slack community started by James Horry, and founders of companies. I saw John Morris post there that he was working with a startup that was looking for a CEO. And I was still thinking, I'm going to keep on pushing Instartly forward. There's a lot of opportunity there. But yeah, I'll just reach out to John and see what he's got. And it was interesting. He encouraged me to meet with Roger Kiger, who's the founder of Smart RIA. And I was like, okay, I've tried working for somebody else to run their company before, and that didn't quite work out. But, never say no until you know what you're saying no to. And so I went and met with Roger and just immediately hit it off with him and had a strong rapport and felt like the opportunity that he was offering was one that was a good fit with my skill set and also something that would be a challenge and interesting. So, long story short, a half dozen interviews later, I get hired as the CEO of Smart RIA, and that was in October of 2015, so almost 2 years ago. Smart RIA had been a company for 4 years up to that point, but Roger is a wealth manager, and the internal solution that he created for his company that became Smart RIA was something that he knew why he created it, to solve his own problem, but translating that into a company was something that was not in his skill set. So he was looking for someone who could help him with that, and that's what he hired me to do, was to take Smart RIA from having a minimum viable product into having a real business
and customers. So can we pause there, and can you kind of run the audience through what the platform does?
Sure. So Smart RIA is software as a service, and we simplify compliance for the registered investment advisor community. These are wealth managers, typically independent business owners, and they are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission and the states. And these are pretty tough regulators. They have serious expectations of these firms who are managing money for people like you and I. And they better be complying with those expectations, which can be tough, especially for the one-man shops, smaller operations that don't have a compliance team. And so what we do is we take all of the regulations and organize them within the software that we offer, and build in workflows and a little bit of artificial intelligence to capture events as they occur and make recommendations for things to do to remain compliant. So really, we just simplify things for them and make it easier.
And you mentioned the one-man shop. I'm just curious, is that your target market, or somewhere closer to that versus the really large firms that have their own internal compliance department? Is that where your focus is?
So we certainly have a lot of one-man shops that are customers. I would even say so far they've been the majority of our customers. But we have pretty significantly expanded our customer base in recent years, in recent months. And now we're bringing on considerably larger firms on a fairly regular basis. And as our brand has grown and people have become more familiar with us, we've attracted more of the larger firms.
Interesting. Okay. And so I feel like it's a great place to point out, at least, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the wealth management, investment advisory model has started to change over time, and a lot of people are going out and getting this registered investment advisor designation. So it feels like you guys were on sort of the early stages of that growth. Would you say that's showing true in the work you guys have been doing? Okay, I see a nod, so I'm not too far off base.
Yeah, absolutely. I've read a few times that timing is one of the most important things in startups. You can have a great solution at the wrong time and fail. You can have a poor solution at the right time and win. And we believe that we have a great solution at the right time. So it's been a really fortuitous thing.
That's great. Well, I'm curious, what's been sort of the hardest part of this particular startup? You've been in some other startups, so I'm just curious. I mean, what's been the toughest challenge with Smart RIA?
The toughest challenge was really just figuring out what our customers wanted. When I started, the software had been used by several firms for a long time, and was successful in its purpose to help manage compliance and back office operations for these firms. But when we started trying to sell it, we found out pretty quickly that there were some things that were going to have to change for us to have good success in the market. And so I started in October of 2015, and we launched our final product in August of 2016. So almost a year later, before we kind of left beta with a product that we felt like was what was going to work.
How did you validate that? Was it a lot of customer conversations? Were you making lots of phone calls saying, hey, how's this working for you? What else would you like to see? What could you care less about?
Yes, and even more conversations with people who were interested in seeing a demo and them saying,
it's good, but it's not quite what I thought it was going to be.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
And it was actually those conversations that were most meaningful for us because, no is a pretty powerful word. When you hear it enough about the same thing, you're like, oh, okay, they're saying don't do that anymore.
Something's wrong.
Actually, our product that we launched in October of 2016, we cut out about 60% of the features that we started with.
Okay.
And that was due to some really good advice from industry professionals and also due to the recommendations of our customers and the concerns of our customers. And suddenly we had something that was easy to explain and they just got it and there was nothing not to like.
Yeah, so I do think that's a perfect place to pause because I think that's a takeaway people really need to pay attention to, and I don't want them to miss it in the rest of the message. But it sounds like what you're saying is it would have been easy to have project creep and try and do every feature and function that you could do. And a lot of those weren't what your customer A was looking for anyways, or it complicated the message early on. I would imagine some of those are going to be in subsequent releases, but so I guess that was the case, is that it was just really a deliberate decision to build a very concise and simple package that was easy to promote and sell and that made sense to the customers.
Absolutely, yes. You hit the nail on the head. It was a more difficult conversation to show the prospective customers all of these features that we had, and we were really proud of them. We're like, man, look at this, it's cool. And they're like, I don't get it.
Right.
So yeah, ultimately when we simplified things and made it just really drop dead simple for people to understand what we were doing for them, suddenly they didn't have any objections anymore, many fewer, and the sales started coming in.
How interesting.
And absolutely the stuff that we cut out, now our customers are saying, man, you make this so much easier than other software that we use. Do you do anything else that you make easy? Could you do these things and make them easy too? And so we have a really strong pipeline of things that our customers have told us over and over again. If you do this, we'll pay you for it. So
and they're just leading you to the next versions, which is just awesome, and really how validation should work if you're going about it right. So I think that's fantastic for people to sort of listen to. Go back and rewind and listen to Mac right there and just understand that is what validation is all about. Your customers leading you right to other features and functions that they're willing to pay for, which is just
absolutely
just awesome. What's been the easiest part of this process? If there has been an easy part?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the easiest part of the process has been the people who I've been able to work with. We've had, from starting with working with Roger Kiger and John Morris, and then Adrian Carr, who was the long-term part-time lead developer of Smart RIA and still is, and everybody else who I've had a chance to work with. Jeremiah Barnett, who's our business development manager and has stuck with us through that miserable, difficult. The customer is saying, that's really tough on a salesperson.
Right.
But he stuck with us through that and really helped us to make some good decisions. And so everybody, it's been a great, very fortunate experience in terms of the people I've been able to work with.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you being willing to come on and share your story. Some really good tidbits in there for folks. If someone wants to learn more about the solution or connect with you, where would be the best place for them to go?
smart-ria.com is our website. And to my knowledge, I'm the only Mac Bartine in the world. So MacBartine.
Very good. Well, Mac, I appreciate you coming on the show. Great stuff. Great to talk to you again.
Thank you, Jonathan. I enjoyed it.
Have a good day.
You too.